All right, so now I'm going to talk about the company Mendoza Farms and when it started, all the history of it, and I'm going to talk by each year what has happened and what significance Mendoza Farms has done around the country, not just the country, but around the world as well. So, before Mendoza Farms began on January 8, 2010, it started much earlier than that. It started back when I was in culinary school back in 1998 to 1999. And so when I entered into culinary school, I just graduated high school. And throughout high school, I was being bullied. She knows, she's seen how people were bullying me and making fun of me and whatnot. And I was this fat little kid, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I just had no motivation, so my dad thought it'd be a great idea to send me to culinary school. And so he sent me to Portland, Oregon, to go cook, be a chef. And so, so when I was in culinary school, I pretty much got to be my own person, I guess, because no one was bullying me. So I kind of started hanging out with the wrong type of crowd. I was going the wrong direction, I guess, so to say. And then I wasn't paying attention in class. And then one day I met this guy who was also from California, and he said, "Hey, I'm from there too. We should hang out sometime." So we did. So he pretty much basically took me under his wing and became my mentor. I was a little 18-year-old kid, fat pudgy kid. He got me into working out, going to the gym, and then I wanted to know more about my faith, so he took me to church and pretty much just guided me, pretty much. And so by the end of culinary school, the end of 1999, we had to part ways, and he was going to go to Chicago and go cook at a restaurant there, and I was going to come back here and cook at Laguna Niguel at Ritz-Carlton as a pastry chef. And so, for doing all that, what he did for me, I decided to make him a bracelet because I thought that'd be cool, and it would be matching bracelets. So I would wear one, and he would wear one. And so whenever we look at it, we kind of remember what we did for each other. And so I took that idea and just wore the bracelet up until I joined the military in 2006. So in 2006, I enlisted in the Navy. It wasn't my my dad wanted me to join the military for the longest time, and then I became a firefighter, and then my fire captain said, "Hey, why don't you go join the military? You could go see the world," because I wanted to go see the world. And so I thought he was joking, but I went to a recruiter and I said, "I want to see the world. What do I have to do?" Yeah. And so he showed me a whole listing of different types of jobs the Navy provides, and Intel. At that time, Mission Impossible was like going on in theaters, and I wanted to be like a spy. And so I said, "Do you have anything like Intel-wise? I want to go like snoop around and be like this spy type person." And so they said, "Oh, you could become an intelligence specialist." Okay. So in 2006, the next day after my fire captain said, "You should go join the Navy," I enlisted in the Navy for Intel. And my fire captain got pissed off at me for doing that. So I joined the Navy in 2006, went to Intel school in Virginia Beach, and finished in May of 2007. And my first assignment was the USS Blue Ridge in Yokosuka, Japan. And so it's a ship, it's also Comm 7 Fleet, so they were in charge of the whole 7 Fleet area. And I thought I was going to start doing Intel work. No, they put me in the kitchen like this. And they said, "No, you got to spend 6 months working in the kitchen. It's like, that's like your initiation for coming on the ship. But you're also old. You're 26 years old, and you're old as a E3. I'm like, all right. So we're going to make you in charge. You're going to be like the manager of what you're going to do in the kitchen. So I was like, all right. And they pretty much sent a person from every department to work under me, and we were pretty much taking charge of the kitchen and cleaning and sweeping and washing the dishes and all that good stuff. And so We were on deployment to Australia, and a Marine platoon came on the ship. And we were like, okay, I didn't know Marines come on the ship with us, but okay. So they sent down a Marine, a young Marine. He's an 18-year-old kid. And so I noticed that he was pretty much quiet, working with his head down and just not paying attention. And I also noticed that the people in his platoon, they're also making fun of him every time they'd see him on the kitchen floor or on the galley. And so I asked him one day, I said, why do you let these people make fun of you? Why don't you stand up for yourself? And he pretty much said, well, I'm like the youngest of the platoon, I'm like a grunt, and I really can't say anything because they'll make fun of me even more. So I just let them do what they do and be a bully. They bully him. So I was like, all right, well, here, let me take care of you. I'll put you on my knee. I'll take care of you. So we would work together in the kitchen, then whenever we'd have a break, we'd go sit down and talk. We'd talk about school, we'd talk about what he wanted to do in life, his future. Did he have any future plans after the military, or if he was going to stay in? And Marines that were in that platoon that were making fun of him decided, they said to themselves, why is this sailor talking to this Marine? It's weird, it's awkward. Because normally Marines don't interact with sailors on the ship. They tend to keep to themselves. And so two Marines that were kind of friends with the Marine that they were making fun of decided to sit down with us, just like this on the galley. There's a long table like this. I would be right there, Lance Corporal Aurora would be sitting there. And so the other two would sit next to us. And they just listened to us, what we were talking about. And so we were talking about, I don't know, school or life or things back home. Things that normally aren't spoken about in June. And they kind of liked the conversation because it was different. It wasn't making fun of each other or it was just a social type of conversation. And enjoying every time that we would go eat or every time that we would go hang out. So then it became this clan of 4, me and 3 Marines. And then other Marines were like, why are they all hanging out? That's so weird. And so eventually Marine after Marine decided to sit down with us and see what we were doing and talking. And they eventually said, wow, this is actually kind of cool. You know, oh, we just landed in a port. Let's go all hang out. And eventually Marine after Marine decided to sit down with us. And then it ended up being a long table just like this. We would put the tables together and it would be 17 Marines that bullied me and myself. And we would hang out, and we would eat, just like this. Or we would hang out, just like this. And after a 4-month deployment, those Marines that were bullying him finally took him under their wing and said, okay, we accept you. You're going to be our friend. You know, we feel bad that we bullied you because you're not that bad of a guy. So at the end of that 4-month deployment for them, that platoon, because they were going to leave Australia as soon as we landed in port, he asked for a piece of their uniform from their pocket. There's a little flap here underneath their last name. And so they cut a piece of uniform, just like so, those type of pieces right there, and he found some super glue or something, I don't know what he did, and he glued the pieces together to form a bracelet. And so before he left, the last day before they had to board the plane and go back to Norfolk, Virginia, he presented his bracelet, that bracelet. And he said, so I want to give you something. I want to give you a bracelet. I want to give you this bracelet. It's made out of 17 uniform pieces from the 17 Marines that once bullied me and now befriended me. So the body of the bracelet represents the 17 Marines that were once bullies to me, but now they unified me with my friend. The other end has a hoop on it, that represents me, so he says. And then the button, which is different, it's not cloth, but it's still part of the uniform, that represented him being the different piece. And when we're lashed together, that represents the friendship that was bonded on the ship. And so he gave that to me, and then he said, promise me that you'll continue to help others. And, you know, Marines and platoons that come after this, after this platoon that was on the ship, take care of them and be their mentor, and just be their friend and help guide them in their lives. And so I did. And then he departed on May 23rd, 2007. And he went back to Virginia. And so I didn't, I still kept in contact with him. We would talk. At that time, Facebook was still kind of new to me, so we would email each other. And I kept my promise in helping other Marines that came on the ship, and just, you know, befriended them and see where they were in their lives. And by the time 2009 came about, I would say I probably mentored about 500 Marines who I still keep in contact. Some. And it was August 23rd, 2009. Well, let me forward that. September 30th, 2009. The ship landed in Sydney, Australia. It was my birthday. September 30th is my birthday. And I went to go to my computer to see if I could find any emails from my parents to see if they wished me a happy birthday, or my sister. And I got an email from Lance Corporal Alvera's mom. And I opened it, and it said, you know, I'm so proud of you helping all these Marines. I watch you on your Facebook, but then I had Facebook. And, you know, I'm so proud of you. You've helped so many people, and you know, you're just there to be a big brother to them, you know, and I want to wish you a happy birthday. I'm so happy that you're in Sydney and you're with the guys and doing the thing that you always do, that you promised with my son. And then she goes on saying, I wish that my son was alive today to wish you a happy birthday. And so then she goes on saying on August 23rd, he was on a convoy, and he hit an IED on the ground, and it killed him and the 3 Marines that were in that Humvee. So right there on my birthday, I went down to the guys. They were waiting for me in the galley because they knew I went up to go check my email, and that's when I just lost it in front of them. And they didn't understand why. They didn't understand why I do what I do for them. And then I explained, well, this bracelet, I made a promise with a friend to do what I do with you guys and hang out and whatnot. And so, if you ever get a chance after I talk, this letter right here, this is from his mom. This was written to Bob Hurley, the owner of Hurley International Clothing, and it explains how her son died and how he decided to save the people behind him and run on to that IED to kill him, to save the others behind him. And so, obviously it was shocking, and on my birthday every year, besides this past year, I usually hold a banquet just like this, and I commemorate Bands and Arms of when it officially began. And it began by a story or a letter that I read. And so when I found that out on my birthday, I didn't know what to think. And so holiday leave was coming up, December, and I was coming back here to Orange County. I was in Japan, and as soon as I landed on the ground on December 23rd, I took a car rental and I drove up to San Francisco where he was buried, rather than go see my family. I don't think my sister knew that I was coming. And I drove up there, and I met his family for the first time, and you know, we met and whatnot, and then they gave me directions of where he was buried in San Francisco. So there in San Francisco, I found his tomb, and then I also found an encased, it was just like this, kind of like this. And it was slang on his tombstone, just like that. So I went up to it, and it was a letter. It was the last letter I wrote to him. In exchange for the bracelet that he gave me, I wrote him a letter of motivation. You know, I'm so proud of you. Look how far you've become. All that good stuff. Well, he took that letter and he kept it in his pocket of his uniform. When they did the autopsy, they found that letter and gave it to his parents, and they encased it in glass and laid it on his tomb. So I saw that and I was just like, wow. And there I took off the bracelet and laid it on his tomb with him, and I started driving back home on a 6-hour drive. So on that 6-hour drive, that's where I decided, what can I do to continue that progress that I made with him? And so I was driving down the valley, and I was coming up with weird names like, I want to create a company that just like what he did, take uniforms and turn them into bracelets, and then see what I can do to help people, whatnot. So I started writing up names like bracelets for the armed services, or bands for military, but bands for arms came into my mind. It's kind of a two connotation. They're bracelets, they're bands, and they're for your arms, for the armed forces. So I stuck with that, bands for arms. And I wrote all these ideas. I stopped, I don't know, somewhere midway in the valley, and I stopped at a Starbucks because it was like 2 a.m. in the morning or 1 a.m., really late. And I was just writing down names and whatnot. And then I just decided to put that piece of paper behind a picture frame in that Starbucks and just said, I wonder if anything becomes of this. So fast forward 10 years later, I got that piece of paper back. I'll show it to you guys later. But anyway, so I came up with the name Bands for Arms. So then Christmas happened, Christmas Eve, and then Christmas, the day after Christmas, I went to Michael's. And I spent $28.47 on bracelet material because I wanted to make a bracelet. I didn't know how, but I've never made a bracelet before. So I had all this material on my sister's dining room table, and her and I were just sitting at the table, and we were just fiddling around with yarn and thread and beads, and I don't know what we were doing, and attaching a uniform piece to it. The first bracelet I made fell apart. It looked like crap. And then I just started playing around with the material, and eventually I was getting to a design that I thought would be cool. And so all that was happening, and then New Year's happened. My sister and I, and brother, I think, we went to Las Vegas to celebrate New Year's, came back. It was January 1st. I was like, nothing's open right now. January 2nd came around. I went to City Hall and I applied for a business license and for a fictitious business named Bands for Arms. And so then I contacted 4 of my friends, close friends in Japan while I was still here. And I said, I want to create this company, but I don't know how to start it. What do you think? And so one of them, Austin McKinney, he said, well, why don't you create bracelets with like beads on it or something? And then Lance Corporal Ott then, he said, well, I can create a website for you, and you can use that to project it to people. And then Petty Officer Faye, first class, she was like, well, I can build you a Facebook fan page. I know you're kind of familiar with Facebook, but we can start one for you. And then Corporal Hamill, he said, well, I can help you with the business side of it. I know lots about business and numbers and all that. And so we formed together and created this little thing called Bands for Arms, and you can find it on Facebook and a website where I can sell the bracelets. And so that was going on until January 8th, where I finally launched the website and the fan page at the same time. And I said, hey, I have this company I want to start. It's basically a memorial company for my friend who made me this bracelet. and I want to make these bracelets, and it's going to have a service member attached to it who donate their uniforms, and I want this bracelet to support military type charities to help others. And so the first day I sold 10 bracelets. I sold 10 bracelets to a friend's mom because she felt sorry for me because no one was buying my bracelets. So she wrote me a check for $100 and she's like, I'll just take 10 bracelets. I feel sorry for you, no one's buying your bracelets. Okay. And so at that time I didn't know what type of charity to support. I flew back to Japan because winter break was over, and I saw that the USO was opening on our base. And so I went to the USO and I said, hey, I have this idea where I take bracelets or these uniforms and I turn them into bracelets, and I want to support you with the money that's being made. Do you think you can help me promote this? And right off the bat, they were like, that's an amazing idea. Yeah, we can help you. Here, use our logo. Prior to the USO, I went to the Wounded Warrior Project, and they said, oh, well, you have to make a certain amount of money to use our logo to donate to us. I was like, okay, why do I have to make $5,000 a month to use your logo when I'm raising money towards your cause? So when that was presented to me, I went to the USO and I was like, okay, so I want to do this and I want to support you. And so they said yes. And on base in Japan, they started promoting my company through like little flash commercials and posters. They would put posters up around base, which today, if you ever go to Yokosuka Naval Base, all the original Bands for Arms posters and artwork and all that are still around the base because they are so proud of this company that has evolved into what it is today. So the bracelets that were being made were just the bracelets that were being made. They were just being rolled and wrapped around and whatnot, and that's all they were. They were just handmade type bracelets. And then I wanted to expand beyond the Navy and the Army, because that's the Marine Corps, because that's all the uniforms I had. And so then I went on my Facebook and I said, hey, do we have any service members that want to donate their uniforms? And so I got an Army guy, an Air Force guy, and a Coast Guard person. And so they just decided to donate their uniforms to me. And so I was like, oh, cool, I got all the military branches in my hands now. I can do anything I want. But I still didn't know how to sew at that time. And so Corporal Hamill, he said, well, give me all these uniform pieces. We're gonna try and do something new. And so he said, do you have enough money to buy a sewing machine? And I'm like, I don't know how to sew. And so I said, how much do you need? And he said, well, just give me 100. And so we bought a sewing machine on the base's NEX, and we sat in the barracks room and we tried to sew whatever things that were given to us and whatever. And then on May 23rd, I decided, why don't we combine all the uniform pieces and make a bracelet out of it? So we made this bracelet called the United Bracelet, and it had all the military branches on it. It was my first sewn bracelet. This is a piece of the cut pattern that I made of it. This is 10 years old. Well, almost 10 years old, but this is very old. This is a very old section, and this would be probably my most valuable thing next to the bracelet that's in my shop. I know it sounds so simple, but this has supported hundreds of thousands of people around the United States and the world. Because I was able to sew, I was able to produce more bracelets faster and quicker and efficient. And I could build more of a volunteer staff to help me cut uniforms and sew and iron and whatnot. And it was just going on in 2010. And then I had to go change TV stations, and so they sent me to Sigonella, Sicily. So in Sigonella, Sicily, I was still making the bracelets, but I wanted more variations of it. And so I would travel to like different countries and just explore what type of things to work with. And so I would go to Greece and then I'd get whatever type of beads they had. Or I wanted to make leather type bracelets, so I flew to Spain and worked with a leather maker bracelet and learned how to make leather type bracelets. And so this was all going on in Europe while I was stationed in Rota, Spain and Signal Sicily from 2011 to 2012. And that time, that's where, because I was building all this fundage of donation money, I wanted to support another cause. And so at that time, somebody donated a box of World War II uniforms. And I was like, what do I do with these? Because I want to create something special. And so the person who donated the uniforms was the National World War II Museum. They said, we cannot use these in the museum. We thought it'd be fit for you to use them and make something of it. And so I created World War II type bracelets for significant events during World War II. Released those on Veterans Day and raised, I think it was $8,000, and I donated it back to the National World War II Museum. If you ever go to New Orleans, into the National World War II Museum, the original bracelets are in their museum. It's the only museum in the country that houses Vans Farm bracelets on display for the public to see, which is cool. So anyway, I'm running out of time. Am I running out of time?
Yes.
What time?
20 minutes.
20 minutes? I can wrap this up.
Talk fast.
Talk fast. So, with the bracelets and the money that was being accrued for the bracelet sales, the tsunami in Japan happened in 2011, and I wanted to do something to help them. And so I created this humanitarian type bracelet for Japan. And I didn't know that, I would say over $15,000 worth of bracelets was being sold. So I took that money and I donated it back to the Japan relief efforts and helped the victims that were attacked by the tsunami and the earthquake there. So that was my first humanitarian type of effort that I've done with this company. And it was 2011, and I wanted to do something more because I felt like, wow, I can help all these people over there on the other side of the country or on the other side of the world. What else can I do with this? So 9/11 was coming up. September 11th was coming up, and it was their 10th year anniversary upon the attacks of 9/11. And so in June of 2011, I decided to create a bracelet for the National 9/11 Memorial. And it was called the 9/11 bracelet. And it was made out of firefighter uniforms. So I took firefighter uniforms and I combined it with military type uniforms. And so I released it on July 4th, and on July 4th, we raised over $11,000 on one day, just selling one bracelet. And so I took that money and I contacted the National 9/11 Memorial and I said, hey, I want to help you build and open the National 9/11 Memorial for all who have lost somebody to see what you guys have created. And so I donated it, went to this banquet, the banquet dinner for the National 9/11 Memorial, and they made us the top companies that supported and built the memorial. All because of one bracelet that took minimal to create. So then I was like, well, what else could I do with this company? What else can I help? So then the Aurora, Colorado shootings happened in 2012. And there I was, where was I? I was in Rota, Spain, and I heard that there was a shooting in Colorado, in Denver. And then I found out that one of my friends was killed. And they were in the theater, they were watching Batman, and he jumped in front of a girl to save her life, and it killed him. The shooter killed him. And so when I found out that my friend died, I immediately just kind of lost it. But I also wanted to do something for Aurora. So Aurora, Colorado created the Aurora, Colorado bracelet. And that raised, I don't know how much, $15,000 to help bury the people that were affected and shot by the killer that ransacked that. So that was in 2012. And then several months later, Sandy Hook happened. And Sandy Hook, December 14th, well, the morning of December 14th, I was ready to go on a New England tour. I was ready to go up from North Carolina all the way up to Boston. And somebody contacted me and said, you should create like a memorial type bracelet for the Sandy Hook victims, because I think your company could benefit by helping them. And so I was like, all right, I'll quickly make a bracelet design. So I did, released it that morning. In 3 hours, over $8,000 was sold of bracelets for Sandy Hook. And then, rather than going to, my first stop was New York City. I drove from New York City and drove all the way up to Sandy Hook. It was never my plan to Connecticut, Newton. And by then, about $10,100 was raised in less than a 24-hour period. And I donated the whole thing to them. I donated the whole thing to the families to help them bury their children. And so, gosh, what else happened? Then I came to Spain. Well,
he's getting a hook.
Oh.
Mom said you're something like Dad.
I'm just going over through the history of what Bands for Arms has done. And so then I came to Tampa, Florida. And Tampa, Florida is pretty much where my life got destroyed.
Sorry.
Because he's from Tampa. No, my command, U.S. CENTCOM, my leaders did not like me at all. They thought that, who is this kid that's going on the news all the time and doing this stuff on the side? Why is he not focusing on his job? When I really was focusing on my job. And so they would get me in trouble. They would send me to Captain's Mast or UCMJ, for you guys that know that. And when I got promoted to E6, they demoted me and basically pretty much took all my pay on one day. They took my $2,700 paycheck and gave me 10 cents. And I was supposed to use that 10 cents to pay for my rent for the whole month and any of the utilities. So then I didn't know what to do. This was when I think it was when I met Joey. And I wanted to kill myself because I was too overwhelmed with how do I overcome this? And so it was my best friend Peter, who I was working with, Peter Stillian, who's in the Army, who served with me. He pretty much saved my life off from jumping off the bridge. And so that was in 2016 when that happened. And then someone directed me to contact our congresswoman here and file a congressional complaint, and it worked. But they wouldn't renew my re-enlistment to join for another however many years. At that time I was at my 10th year, but they wouldn't let me continue. So I was forced to get out because of my command. They wouldn't approve my re-enlistment. And so then I came back here and continued with Bands for Arms with the service members that I was continuing with that have been helping me all the years up to that point. And then, what else? So we were doing it, we were making the bracelets and whatnot, and occasionally I would find out that one of my volunteers committed suicide. So I was like, oh, why didn't you contact me? Why? You know, I was questioning myself, like, why couldn't you seek help? And I never understood why. And that was in 2018 when that was happening. And then this past year, 4 of my closest friends, they all committed suicide. One committed suicide in January, then March, then on Memorial Day, and the last one a little after Memorial Day. And they were very close to me because they're the ones who got me my dog, Hurley. In 2011, I got Hurley the dog because this dog was given to me because I had a bad breakup with my girlfriend, and I was just in a state of depression. And they got me this dog. They saved up all their money, and they got me Hurley the dog, to just keep me company.
He's a lazy dog.
Anyway, so just this past year has been a very bumpy ride, and then when I found out the 4th friend killed himself, and it's all due to PTSD. They served over in Afghanistan, and then on July 4th or July 3rd, I tried to commit suicide again. I was with these guys, Manny and Christian, who have helped put this event on. We went and watched Spider-Man. We went and watched Spider-Man that night, and I was just on my way home, and then I was like, I'm tired of my life. I could have saved my friends. Why are there so many passing away? Why are they killing themselves? And so I was just like not in the state of mind that I needed to be. I texted Trey, who put this place together for us, and I texted him, and then I decided maybe I shouldn't try to commit myself to suicide. And then I admitted myself into the veteran hospital in Long Beach, and I put myself in the psych ward because I didn't know how to cope with this mental stress. And so Wendy, who was supposed to be down here, Wendy flew down immediately as soon as she found out, because she understood what I was dealing with, because I couldn't find anybody around me that dealt with the same issues I was dealing with. So she flew down immediately and stayed with me for a month and helped me get the right treatment and the right therapy that I needed and the right people to see. And so I went through therapy from July all the way up into December, but in that time frame, I was also neglecting Bands for Arms. I wasn't caring for it anymore. I had no desire to design because I was blaming myself for the company, because if I didn't, at that time I was like, why did I create this company? You know, if I didn't create this company, I would have met these friends that killed themselves. So in that time frame, I had no desire at all to make bracelets and to help people, because I just gave up on myself. But I still, at that time, I had the shop open. And at that time, I incorporated Funko Pops, just as a side thing, just to see if I could draw in people, because no one was coming into the shop. There was no foot traffic at all. So I brought in Funko Pops to see if it would move people. And then I met Tommy over there, Tom's mom, who helped me fill up the shop and keep it supplied. And then I met Kristen over there, who helped promote the store and what I do and whatnot, and the bracelets. And so it was becoming this conglomerate of busyness, I guess so to say, and it was keeping me busy and keeping my mind off of suicidal thoughts. So they are important in my life because of what they've done up to this point. Now we have one of the busiest shops in the world. Anyway, so Bands for Arms, the 10 years here is just, I just want to thank all of you that have stood behind me and have followed me all these years for 10 years. And and my family too. Yeah. And I just want to thank all of you here for coming. This person right here, Annie.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah.
Hi.
Are you done yet?
No. The night I tried to commit suicide, I found a card that he gave me in December to hand out to service members that were dealing with PTSD and whatnot. And I pulled that card out and I called it. And that's who I was speaking to direct me to the hospital. So if it wasn't for this woman and American Soldier Network, the charity that she runs, I probably wouldn't be here today. So she has a huge significance in my life, and that's why I support her in all her efforts. And tonight we're going to donate $1,000 to a charity because of what you've done and what you do for so many thousands of people. I have 5 minutes. Okay, so that pretty much sums up the 10 years of Bands for Arms. It's a milestone for me. I'm getting back on my feet with the company, I promise. I know I haven't been posting a lot of the bracelets. December was a little rough for me because it was holidays are very rough for me because that's when us Marines and our friends, we would just get together. And this past December, I wasn't the same. I really wasn't. But I promise I'm getting better. I have no suicidal thoughts, so if that's what you're wondering. No. The shop keeps me busy. It's good that it does because it just keeps me on a track that I need to be on. So that very much sums up my speech tonight and the 10 years. Does anyone have any questions? Do you have any questions? Anybody? No?
Anybody?
Are you done yet, man?
Yeah. Okay, I don't know.
Oh.
Are we done or are we not? So I'd rather have this. Your dad.
Yes.
How did you get associated with Robert Hurley?
So Robert Hurley, I back when I started college in 2001, I took business marketing in fashion design, and I wanted to start my own t-shirt company. And Robert Hurley was the teacher at the time, and so he taught us and whatnot, but he saw a different side of me that was progressing than other students, and he took me to the side and said, hey, you know, I see potential in you. I think you could do this and start a company. That was in 2001. So since then, he has been pretty much my mentor up to this day. He's over in South Africa now, creating water programs to save Africa, but he's over there. And he's the one who got me into Surfer Magazine. Surfer Magazine's been a big sponsor to Bands for Arms for the past, I don't know, since 2012. And they have helped put on this event tonight. It's sponsored by Surfer Magazine because they want me to take care of the people that take care of me. So, any other questions?
So, how did you meet Stanley?
Stanley. So Stanley, a bracelet was given to his nephew in 2013 at a Comic-Con in Chicago. He gave that bracelet to Stanley. Stanley somehow contacted me and said, hey, I like this bracelet. It's pretty cool. You should make more. I'm like, okay. So I made him a shadow box of different Marvel type bracelets and gave it to him in a shadow box and mailed it off to him, to service members that were going to meet and greet him, and they gave it to him. So he took this shadow box of bracelets and said, oh, I'm going to put this in my office. You should make more Marvel type bracelets. Super cool. That's how he talked. And that's how I pretty much got connected with Stanley. And then when I came back here to the States, after my 10 years of service, I contacted him saying, you know, I'm here now in the States. Do you have any work for me that I could do with Marvel? And he said, oh, you should become an artist. Let me teach you how to draw. And let me teach you how to paint. And so because of Stanley, all these paintings over here, it's because of his mentorship. And so we worked together, creating bracelets together, bracelet designs, and up until the point where he passed away last year on November 12th, that took a lot from me. It was like a snowball effect that was just going down, and yeah, a huge mentor, and a big help to Vance Farms, that World War II veteran. He was in the Army, and so if you ever come to the shop, I have a piece of his uniform from World War II. It's in the glass case, and we have a drawing that we did together, a sketch of a bracelet that was made to honor the comic book people and the military people. That's how Stanley came into my life. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, any other questions?
All right. So we're going to end this night now because we're getting kicked out. Thank you again for coming.